viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. We got us a 2007 Ford Freestyle here. It's got the 3-liter in it. She has all-wheel drive. Customer complaint is no speedometer, bunch of lights on the dash, and it won't shift. I was going to take her for a little shimmy around the block, see what the codes were. Never made it out of the parking lot. Didn't really have to. Of course, I plugged a scan tool into it, gathered our codes, and we had several codes in it, and one of those includes that U1900, so ABS CAN communication bus fault. That code was stored in the airbag module, the anti-theft, and in the cluster. Now, I don't know why it's not stored in the ECM, and I don't know why when the Veris did the auto scan, it didn't show any codes in the transmission control module, because when I checked the training module manually, it also had a fault for loss of communication with the ABS module. So what I've done from there is I tried to communicate with the ABS module, and it indeed is a no communication. I cannot communicate with the ABS module. I don't understand why the speedometer doesn't work. The transmission reads vehicle speed. I thought that would have sent it to the ECM, which also receives vehicle speed, and it displays on the scan tool, but it does not show it on the cluster. So evidently ABS plays some mix in there, even though that information is not service data. And I guess with all that being said, here's where I'm at as far as I got. So with a no communication state of the ABS module, what we need to do is check the ABS module. Powers, grounds, ignition input, and then naturally ability to communicate. So I thought I'd grab the camera, bring you guys along. I printed this out, some wire diagrams that I think we're gonna need, and then we'll make an assessment of how we're gonna attack this. So I can get everybody up to speed here. I'll show you what lights are on. So we've got our red brake light, our amber ABS light, traction control light, and then we have a flashing airbag light. And that's it, and then obviously no speedometer operation. So after I brought it in, I just popped the hood, told you guys where I'm at. ABS module lives right down there. I did see some evidence of some rodents living under here. There's old pieces of chewed up, acorns, stuff like that. So I just took a mirror, gave a quick visual inspection down on the bottom side of that connector. Didn't see anything, didn't see any wires chafed. You guys could see all the crusties. Little mice get in here. I just want to make sure we didn't have an obvious, chewed up wire. So as I've mentioned in the past, these no comms, like I say, it's powers, grounds, ability to communicate. But what you need to do first is you need to get to know your enemy. So wire diagrams are one way to do that. A lot of this stuff can be, 80% research and 10% or 20% fixing, I guess it would be. So here is our ABS connector. We could see, we have battery full time there. We have battery full time there. This is going to be like an ignition switch, voltage supply, and start and run. Overload protected, so as a fuse we have a ground there. And that looks like it, possibly yet another ground there. So what we want to do, this connector is not super easy to get to, so I figured the best place to start is naturally with the fuses. So I grabbed a power distribution diagram, and we see our ABS module here. There's our smart junction box, so it's going to be our under hood fuse box, I believe. And we have two fuses, 12 and 9, a 20 and a 40 amp, so we'll check both of them. Grabbed us a network diagram. So the ABS module up here works on the high-speed network along with the airbag module. Looks like some kind of electronic rear differential. Got two different types of transmissions, whether it's CVT or a 6-speed. There's ECM instrument clusters, so not a lot on this network. Then it appears to have another network here on pin 7, perhaps another one on pin 3, perhaps some lower priority networks. And then I grabbed this diagram, which this should be our keyed power source, which is right here. So fuse number 19, it's a 10 amp. This also says it's in a smart junction box. And then that runs our ABS module. Now this one, if we follow this power distribution back, this one comes from the ignition switch. So I guess with all that being said, we'll start by checking the fuses. Before I do that though, I'll clarify my error. These fuses that run the ABS module are in the battery junction box, so it's going to be the one under the hood. The ignition sources comes from the smart junction box, which is inside the vehicle, so my mistake. It's not going to be the last one I make though, I'll tell you that much. Look at this, man. It's all salt, baby. Looks like little dollars, doesn't it? So we're going to use our test light 2.0. Clamp that right on our negative terminal. Test light works, and we are looking for fuse number 12 and 9. So number 12 is supposed to be a 20 amp. Find it here in the list. Where are you at? 12, right there. Is a 20 amp, and then number 9, which is this one right here. So we got a, oh, am I right? Nope, that one's number 9. That's a 40 and a 20. Right? Yep, 40 and a 20. Okay. I'm gonna light. These fuses with these plastic tops are sometimes hard to see if they're open or not. Well, I can't say 100% for sure, but it almost appears that this 20 amp is open. It's so hard to tell. I'll let you guys have a look, see what you determine. It does appear to be open, doesn't it? So there's that one, and then where's our other one? Which was it? This little guy right here. Oh man, I scratched it too much with my fingers. We can't see, it won't focus. That one definitely appears to be open though. To be sure, we'll pop the little plastic cover off it. See if we can just test both legs of it. There we go. Little cover is off. Here's our little test light. We'll go on one side, and that side's good. Oh, it tricked us. I would have swore that little sucker was open. That side's good. Just push on it a little bit there. Huh, that sucker is not open. Boy, I would have sworn. It is not open. Wow, be jiggered. Tricked me. Probably tricked you guys too. Boy, even looking on the camera, it sure looked like that was an open circuit. And it's not. We can see, I think it's just the shadow it's casting. We can see our 40 amp is also good. But just for grins and giggles, let me just pull the plastic cover off it and test it, just to make sure that we have power there, just to be certain. And we do. We have power on both sides of that. So, whew, thought we were going to end this show early. Of course, we would have had to have found the short. So that's 2 of them. And then it looks like, what was it, fuse 19 on the interior. F19. That feeds a whole bunch of gizmos. Fuse 19, 10 amp. Let's go on the inside. This is where the smart junction box lives. Way down yonder here. We find a good ground. Clamp it on this door check. I swear, every pair of vice grips, every test light should come with a pair of vice grips on it. Alright, so number 19, whoops, hold on. Oh my god, 18, 19, 10 amp. We're gonna have to turn the key on for this little guy. If I can find the hole here. There we go. It's gotta be nice to it. Should be this one. Power there. There. But not there. There. Uh-oh, fuse 19 is blown. Let me go get a new one. I'm back. Let me turn this blower motor off here. That's off. What is it? That little guy right there. So there's that one. definitely smoked. Set that to the side. Let's stick this in and see if it blows immediately. It'd be nice if it just blew immediately, wouldn't it? Ah, that sucks. Well, now what? Now what is right? So what we have to do is look at. Let's stick this. Let me just stick that somewhere. So fuse 19 is here, and it blew. So possibilities are, you know, a short from here to the ABS module, but then you can see it also comes down and it feeds the center stack switch assembly, whatever that is, differential electronic module, heated seat module, parking aid module. Awesome. Just for grins and giggles, let's start it up here. Our lights go out, and all of the lights are out except the seatbelt light. Nope, traction light just turned back on. Tell you what, let's maybe that fuse opened, which would be nice. What we can do is we'll take and grab some codes out of it again. Just do a code scan here. Alright, so this time we detected 9 systems as opposed to 7, so we gained our transfer case control module and something else here. Oh, our ABS, naturally. Duh. So we have currently left rear wheel speed signal fault, and then of course we still have our U code stored in there. But now the transfer case has an oil pressure pump performance, so that's interesting. So I tell you what we're going to do now that we've got everything back online. I just want to take and print this out just for my records so we have it. Now we're going to take and clear these. And what we need to do is we need to see if we can duplicate the fault. You know as well as I do, fuse blows, they don't just wear out over time. There is a problem, and we need to find it. Alright, codes are cleared. I went ahead and fired it up so our battery doesn't get too low on us. It doesn't look that healthy. Oh, did we blow the fuse already? Oh, it's looking that way, so just starting it, so just in this few minutes it did snap the fuse. That's fantastic. So whatever our short is must be present. Let's have a gander. Yep, looks like all the lights are back on. Okay, good. Well, that makes me happy. Let's see. Where you at, little fella? Let's see if we can see what look at our dough. It is opened. However, the fuse case is not black. So a lot of times when there's a dead short in these things, gosh, excuse me, when these things really pop, it'll leave a black smear inside the case. This looks like it may have sizzled open. So that's pretty interesting. So there's a couple things going through my mind. Because we have a lot of possibilities as to where a short could be. It could be in any one of the modules, which I'm suspecting simply because I would assume if we had a wire chafe through, here or here, any of these, we'd have an immediate short to ground. So I guess the only thing we can say is, when we had it powered up, we did have a code in the rear differential module. Now, most modules that use a keyed source, a keyed power source, usually it's not the only power source. You know, it's a lot of times that's just like a wake up, like, hey, you know, you're in, you're on, you know, start doing what you do. I did quickly go through some wire diagrams over here just because I wanted to see if that was the case, and it's not the case. So this center stack switch assembly, that's like the 4-way switch, the traction control button, this is its only power source. Same with the differential electronic module, which I thought was kind of odd. That's its only power source. The heated seat module, naturally that's a high current drawer, so that has like an extra 30 amp full-time fuse. So I'm assuming that the switched, you know, key switched voltage to it is just to turn the module on to give it the ability to heat the seats. And then the parking aid module, it too is its only power supply is this key source. This module lives inside, this one lives inside, this one lives inside. This one hangs underneath the vehicle, from the best I could tell, back by the rear differential. Just taking a big fat guess, you know, knowing the conditions these vehicles are driven in, the salt, the slop, it's 10 years old, or almost 11 years old rather. I say we focus our efforts back here first. I'm gonna grab a diagram, we're gonna take a look at this. Because we did have that code for something to do with the rear pump, you know, back when it was functional. I guess we can go in and get that paper. What's up, Mrs.O? Will you hand me my papers in the printer? Come on, we're hot on the trail of some super stuff. So let's see. I tell you what, man, them dogs got the life.
I need one of those.
Yeah, well, you just lay down there and take a nap with her. We won't judge you.
Good.
So here we go. So it's 1889 oil pressure pump performance. I think that was the only one that really stood out to me. Of course, this wheel speed signal fault I'm not super concerned about, unless they're active wheel speed sensors. Could be a potential. So we'll keep that in mind too, but I say we kind of focus on this a bit. Thanks, Mrs.O. It's been lovely. Yeah, thanks. So we will find, where's the differential? There we go. I'm not 100% certain how this works, but here, so that's our fuse 19. It does come down and feeds this module. And the best I can tell, that's the only power source on it. 2 grounds, we've got our network communications, and then active on-demand coupling oil pump. So apparently it has some sort of viscous coupler, rear differential, that it sent, you know, perhaps network data as to when to engage the rear coupler, perhaps. Perhaps that's when the fuse blew. You know, maybe it was doing some kind of cycle and noticed this pump performance is off. Maybe it's shorted. So why don't we just go right down to it and see what we find. Here is a connector view of what we're going to be looking for, and it just has the 2 network wires, 2 grounds, and then our fuse 19. So that is it. So that's what it looks like. I just want to see. I believe it is under the vehicle. What was the part number on that? C3269. Why is this blown up so big? Oh, there it is. Seems like they painted red for us. Alright, so this is, must be like the fuel pump access, so it should be right under there. Underneath the vehicle from the looks of it. I'm assuming that is our rear differential module. Look at that beautiful white stuff. Oh, it's everywhere. Even on the floor. Alright. Oh yeah, she's nasty. Love it. Anywho. Wow. Well, wire's pretty tight there in the differential case. I haven't touched anything yet. Don't touch nothing. That's my advice to you. Except this leaf, we can get that out of the way. Harness runs down, it does go to this bigger connector right there. But I guess just visually, then the harness runs back up and over, and then up through the floor. So lots of potentials for problems down here. So first thing first, when we see them wires touching, we're just going to push it back. I do not see it rubbed through right there. And then there's another spot where it's touching right here. It's not rubbed through there. Instead of unhooking it there, I'll get a blow nozzle, we'll blast this off, have a look at this connector. She's pretty cruddy. See if there's any green boogers growing in it. Find something metal. There we go. Give her a little toot. Another quick look before we pull them apart. Man, I think I just found a dead spider. It's like an albino one. Ah, it is. Ah, it's got. Oh, it's a little baby spider just oozed. Don't land. Ooh. It didn't land on me. Don't worry. Well, I don't see any green crusties. All we have to do is see if we can't get it unplugged. Oops. There she goes. That connector looks gorgeous. No, nothing growing. Those are both our speed sensors. Which wheel did it have the code for? These are active wheel speed sensors. Doesn't look like either one of the rings are broken. I'm just kind of curious. I just see the harness running with this harness too, so that's the only reason I was curious. Probably should have saved that paper. All right, I'll stop. I'm getting sidetracked. Just trying to make some mental notes, talking out loud. So I say we leave this unplugged just for whatever reason. Boy, a lot of potential for problems down here. We'll leave this unplugged just for the heck of it. We'll check these connectors now. We know that one's good. See what they look like. Lots of crusties. Come on, baby, show me some green. Nope, not there. And then apparently this is the motor. It must be like a mechanical apparatus. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if it plunges into a clutch pack or what. We'd have to look up the theory and operation on it. This is what it was throwing the code for, though. Alright, no green crusties. Plug that back in. Alright, let's stuff a fuse in it. So this thing's kind of a pain to get in to put fuses in. Naturally, I don't want to keep blowing fuses, so I installed my fuse buddy. Got a 10 amp in there. I don't entirely trust these, so I spread apart my cables, and I got a little bit too close to my knife, to say the least. And so I put a current clamp around it. We're gonna zero that little guy out, clamp that on there, and then we're gonna see what kind of current is coming through that fuse currently. Because last time it blew as soon as we started it, or shortly thereafter. Let's see. So it's interesting. So our traction light's on. Remember that came on because of our speed sensor code. All right, so now the lights are on. We're only drawing 157 milliamps average. All right, so like I say, last time it blew, we're going to assume the problem still exists. You know, it blew shortly after we started it. But I suppose we can leave it running. We'll stick all this on the cart, and then we'll plug in that rear diff. Now, I don't know if it blew when it tried to do a, you know, if it does some kind of self-test on that rear differential. You know, as far as cycling that, you know, motor back there that engages the clutches, I'm not entirely certain. But why don't we do that? I'll tell you what, I raised it up just enough so I can shimmy my butt under there. Let me put a little more time across the screen here. I'm gonna shimmy underneath and plug that in. Alright, here we go. Plugging in right now. Oh, what in the thunder? I missed it, son of a monkey. But we got the problem, baby. Alright, so it should have. Yeah, it did pop our fuse. Crap, I only had this on a 1 amp setting here. Of course, you guys probably seen what it went up to. Let me play back my footage. I just went back, replayed our footage, and unfortunately, because I did have it on a 1 amp scale, it didn't display what it actually hit. Granted, it went over 10 amps. We know that because it popped the fuse, or popped the circuit breaker. And we got lucky because we got it on our first try. So now what we need to determine, I suppose, is on that rear differential, is it, you know, is it a short in the module, or is it to that electric motor in which it feeds this coupling oil pump? I guess it would be right here. Because I mean, that's going to be the only thing that really demands power. I mean, like I say, unless there's a short, you know, directly in the module, which is plausible, because as soon as I plugged it in, it went right to a high voltage spike. But at that point, was it trying to engage, you know, this oil coupler? And I don't even know if that's available separate. But what we could do is, because that's a separate connector on the module, let's just unplug that, leave the module plugged in, and redo our test. Well, I can't say 100% certain that looks like it's replaceable. Yeah, I guess there is 2 Torx bits that hold it on. Whether or not it's, you know, serviceable from Ford, that's another story. But what we'll do, I guess essentially the only purpose of this is to determine, you know, again, I don't even know if this module is serviceable separate, but we need to determine, is the short in the module, or is the short, you know, here. So that's what we need to figure out. That's the only reason we're doing this. This connector pushed down. Ah, you son of a monkey. Stupid connectors. Well, I guess the good news is, well, there is no good news yet, but the lock tab on that connector broke. These things are super fragile. You just touch them, they break. Is what it is, but if we end up needing this motor, it comes with a new connector, so we're off the hook for that. If not, we're in pickle. All right, let's retry it and see what we find. Go round 2. That fuse is good. The clamp is zeroed. Put her back on there. Let's take in, just in case something goes wonky again, let's get her up on a bigger scale. We're on a 20 amp scale. We'll still leave 2 minutes across the screen. And you can see now we're pulling about just a smidge over 1/4 of an amp. And that's with the module plugged in, but the pump motor disconnected. So I'll give that a little bit of time. I'll let it fill up a screen here. And then I suppose what we can do is we can plug that back in and see if we can duplicate the same problem here. It's just about filled up the screen, nothing has changed. I'm gonna scoop back under there. If I find my light, I'm gonna plug that back in here. I'll let it refresh. So we get a full screen. Now I'm gonna go back under, I'm gonna plug that pump motor back in, see what happens. All right, here we go. 3, 3.5, 2, 1. All right, plug back in. What's it doing? Anything? Holy crap! Man, it just popped that fuse. What was that? Like 18 amps? But I don't really care for this thing a whole lot. Circuit breakers are a little different than fuses, but that's obviously our problem. Look at that, 18.83 amps. Fabulous. Alright, so the circuit breaker's back open. I cut my dang wire, moron. And then we spiked out at 18.83 amps. That's lovely. And we 100% have a definitive answer now. No more testing required. So I hope everybody followed along here. You know, ultimately the cause of our no speedometer, you know, no transmission engagement, you know, transmission won't shift for whatever reason because it can't talk to the ABS module. Not going to look into that too far. And the speedometer doesn't function, which doesn't match, you know, data when I look that up. It doesn't mention anything about needing reference from the ABS, but I guess that's neither here nor there. And ultimately the problem comes back to is this blown fuse 19, which is blowing because of this active on-demand coupling oil pump that fuse 19 powers this DEM, differential electronic module, and it also uses that power obviously to activate this coupling oil pump. I suppose at this point the next thing to know is, you know, what kind of pump is this? Is this, you know, mechanically, you know, being mechanically moved? Could there be some kind of mechanical seizure in the rear end? Or is this indeed, you know, a sort of a fluid pump per se? That I don't know, and that's what I have to look into at this point. But the good news is we had several culprits. You know, looking back at our diagram, you can find it here. Actually, you know what? I think it's still saved on here. Let's see. Yes, we had several culprits that ran off fuse 19 that could have been the problem. Just through logical deduction, I guess, I made the assumption that it was not a direct short to ground, just in the nature in which it blew the fuse. I was suspecting a bad module or component, and I just took a big fat guess simply because, you know, the center stack switch, as I mentioned, is inside the vehicle. Not that they're exempt from, you know, failure. The heated seat module did not use this power source to, you know, power the heated seats. So just, like I say, another fat guess. And this parking aid module is also inside the vehicle. I just took a guess on the differential electronic module, simply given the environment in which it lives in, which ultimately I don't believe or don't feel that it perhaps had anything to do with it, simply because nothing was green and crusty. So some days it's better to be lucky than it is good. So at this point I got to do a little bit of research. First of all, service bulletins, I probably should have checked them at this point a long time ago. Always check your service bulletins early and often. They can lead you into the correct path, get your head in the right funnel anyways. So we're going to check that. I also am going to check with Ford to see if any of those rear differential parts are serviceable. Sometimes with these electronic, you know, rear differentials, viscous couplers, you know, the manufacturers, Ford, Honda, whoever, they buy them as an assembly from, you know, whoever makes them for them, and, you know, completely non-serviceable. Buy the whole unit, you know, call it a day. Which I have done several videos where we've taken them apart, replaced individual bearings. stuff like that. So I'm gonna check into that, see if that's the case. I've never worked on one of those. You know, I don't see many of these Freestyles, to be honest with you. I think I only have 2 customers that actually have them, this guy and another guy, and this is the first problem I ran across with one in regards to that. If it wasn't that, you know, at that point we probably would have left that module unplugged and out of the picture, and would have gone to, you know, to something next. I probably at that point would have isolated which side of the circuit is having the short. Is it the wires going to the ABS module or the wires going to these 4 other modules would have been my next step, using a current clamp, you know, sticking a fuse in, see which one of the, which side, which leg of that is drawing the high current. That would have at least eliminated our ABS, and then we would have narrowed it down to, you know, the last 3 modules, which would have taken a little bit of digging to get to. They're all, you know, behind panels and stuff like that. So that would have been my next approach is, you know, you have to find out which one of those circuits is drawing the high current, and we could have used the current clamp to do so. But we're pretty fortunate. We stayed under our hour diagnostic time. We have an answer, and now I've got to do a little digging. I suppose I can bring you guys along for that. All right, folks, I just got off the phone with the Ford Motor Company. It is serviceable at the tune of $436.07, and that includes the O-ring, he told me. Fantastic. I did look up here in service information, and they do have a procedure for replacing it, which ultimately comes down to the 2 bolts, the connector, and pop it out. So it looks gravy to change, about 440 bucks. It must be some sort of Volvo design, which I don't know because I don't work on Volvos. But it states in here that it uses a special Volvo fluid. Part number 1161641 Volvo transmission oil. So this is kind of one of those things where I'm wondering if, you know, if I bought this piece through Volvo, if it would be cheaper if indeed that whole rear differential is made by Volvo, which wouldn't surprise me. But, you know, without knowing, doing a bazillion hours of research, I don't know. So I'm going to leave it at that. I guess one thing to keep in mind is we also have the, you know, code for the rear wheel speed sensor. You know, how long has that been happening? So now at this point, I need to stop. I've diagnosed what I've been asked to diagnose by the customer, why the speedometer doesn't work. We have that answer now, but now I need to call them and ask them, you know, prior to this going bad, was the traction control light on, ABS light on, you know, for that speed sensor problem. Kind of pick his brain there a little bit. I don't want to get myself in a jam, tell him he needs this, you put it on, all of a sudden the light's still on, you know, speedometer works, but the light's on, and they say, ever since you. So this was a good point as a shop owner. Just stop, call him, talk to him, and see what he says. If he tells me that the ABS light was not on prior, I find it kind of hard to believe that the speed sensor went bad, you know, the same time that this rear pump motor went bad. In either case, if he's, you know, states that, then I'm just going to do a full diagnosis. You know, you're going to need, you know, whatever's wrong with the speed sensor plus this. The only thing I'm skeptical on is if we put this pump motor in, you know, we don't even know that this rear differential is any good, and that's kind of scary. But we'll just have to reflect that to our customer and let them know also, you know, unless they can give us some insight that, yeah, everything was working great prior. Who knows? That's it. We diagnosed it. You came along. So any questions, comments, criticisms, concerns, down below. And while you're down there, click that notification bell and the subscribe button if you haven't done that. Check us out on our socials, Google+, Facebook, Patreon. If you want to support us and love what we do, we appreciate that. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.